Remember my question earlier. Businesses die just like human beings. There are fatal things out there that can get you. And you need to know what they are and protect yourselves. This is just an illustration. And by the way, the risk management world, they've kind of lumped all kinds of risk in 4 or 5 buckets. I've basically created, financial risk is so important, I've kind of put it by itself. So typically, strategic risk is the top risk that you worry about. And strategic risk basically says, am I in the right business? Did I bet on the right product? Am I in the right markets? So if you bet on a product that, well, it's not a good example, but if you somehow didn't know that MP3s were on the rise and then you lay out this big investment in CDs, that's an example of a strategic risk, which speaks to the fact that you need to be constantly evaluating your external environment. If you're a used car dealer and you were not listening to the news at all that the government, when it did, changed the age with which vehicles could come into the country, you are going to be out of business. So the strategic risk is a risk that determines the business that you are supposed to be in. And if you make a mistake with a product or a market, you're going to get in trouble. The operational risk speaks to the daily things that you must do to get to your strategic end. So the operational risk speaks to your people, your processes, and your technology. Are my people trained? Do they make lots of mistakes? Are they committing frauds? Do they have the right systems to get my processes to work? Compliance risk is another big one. Compliance with laws and regulations, especially if you run a restaurant, if you're in the food business, the food handler's permit, all of these things you need to get right. All right, I'm going to get quickly into the things that you need to do to keep your head above the waters. But before I do that, I like to repeat what I'm speaking, just for repetition. What we're talking about here, there are things that can get you from a business perspective. And we gave you some examples of companies that died. Bearings, 200 years old, more formal than most SMEs, lots of resources, lots of capital. One man in the hotel room brought down this bank. What can we do to ensure that our businesses don't get blown off the face of the earth before you want the business to go down? This is just an example of the broad categories of risks. Any literature that you read, they're going to say, watch your strategic risks, watch your operational risks, watch your compliance risks, watch your financial risks, and there's another one, reporting risks, that speaks to the reliability of the information that you get in making decisions. You need to watch those. All right, so we're going to go to my summary slide now to deal with, quickly, let me escape out of this and just get right to this. Going too fast. And this is the mnemonic that I alluded to. I'm just going to race through this current slide. All right, so the first thing that you need to do, and officially I think I have about 3 minutes. Unofficially, I have about 10. Hang with me. We're going to go through these quickly. And I want you to remember this, guys. So the first thing, if you want to give your business, whether it's a restaurant business, a bakery, the best chance of survival, the first thing is that you as the boss or a leader in that company needs to establish the tone at the top. And the tone at the top basically means the things that you prioritize, the messages that you send. In Jamaica, they say, or we say, if the head of the river dirty, then the whole, I'm not doing well, the whole stream messed up, right? And I know a young lady who was in a business, and the CEO, and this is a real story, had a practice of flouting. He has no regard for laws. He would break every law, and in that company, the theft rate was out of this world. The person that I know left after about 2 weeks because that was the tone that was set at the top by the CEO, and it filters right down. So that's the first thing, the control environment. The second thing is you need to know specifically the things that you are trying to accomplish. A very simple point. Strategically, where do we want to be in the next 5 years? Operationally, how are we going to get there? From a compliance perspective, what are the specific laws that we need to follow? A bank failed to report your compliance with your know your customer and so on, they could take away your license. You're in the food business, like I said, your food handler's permit. People need to go through different types of training. So what is the business that I'm in expressed through what are the objectives that I have? And the objectives simply mean where it is, that I want to be. You cannot identify your risks until you know what your objectives are. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. You cannot truly know your risks until you know what your objectives are, because your objectives say where it is that you want to go. And the example that I like to give is, when I leave here, if I'm going down to PwC, and I have to get there in 20 minutes for a partners meeting, and I'm the chair of the meeting, if I'm going down there, unless it's my mother I see in an accident, I'm not stopping. So you can do a good thing that looks good, but it's bad for what you're trying to accomplish. So you might have lots of good things that you're doing in your business, but they're not helping you to get to your objectives. They're diverting resources away from the things that you really need to focus on. So the purpose of this presentation, therefore, is to find out the things that could create a problem for your strategic direction, your operations, your people, your stock, what laws you may not be complying with that you think you're complying with, the financial objectives, are your cash coming in on time, do you have reliable information? You need to know the things that could create a problem for this. Once you have done that, then you need to ask yourself, how well do we go to market with new products? Do we just go at the whim and fancy of an influential person in the company without checking to see that all the risks are being covered, and then you discover later on that it fails after you spend $200,000? You need to check how well, actually I'm here, you need to check how well the controls that you have before you go to market. But the second thing is, once you're going too fast, so once you identify all the things that could stop each of these, you need to rank them. You need to rank them. You don't have unlimited resources. So you might have 100 things that could create a problem for your business, but really maybe 10 you really need to worry about. So if you're in my business, the financial consulting business, the top thing that you need to worry about is quality and your reputation. There are lots of other things, but those are the two top ones that you need to get right. Do you know the top 2 risks that you need to worry about for your business? Are you in the entertainment business? Are you in the food business? Are you in the... Which business are you in? Do you know what the top risks are that you need to be watching? Once you find them out, then you need to put in all the controls, the procedures to ensure that those risks don't become a reality. But if you find out, if you take the time and do a listing of these threats, you compare how you currently do business in relation to these threats, and you find that you're weak, we call those gaps, then you need to do something about it. You need to do something about it. And that's what we call treatments. You need to take a position. So if you find that you have new people that you don't do background checks on, that's a risk. And you need to treat that risk. You can either try to mitigate it, avoid it, put in more insurance, or accept the risk that we don't have the time to do the psychometric testing. But you need to take a position on the gap. The position that you take should take the risk down to a level that you're tolerable or that you can live with. All right? And then you need to put in systems to monitor those risks to ensure that when new risks come up, you're not surprised. And the best way to do this is have monthly staff meetings with your team members. They know a lot of what's going on the ground. And you basically just go back to your objectives and do a brainstorming session of what new risks, what new threats might be coming out. I'm done. So at the end of the day, if you want to keep out of the news, if you want to make more money, that is to ensure you reach your objectives, then you need to practice GMA talk. What did I? You need to practice GMA talk. The G is for gaps. Know what the gaps are in your business. Okay? M, you need to have systems, reports. At all times, you need to know what the top 10 risks are. It's not difficult to know. The A is you need to keep assessing the risks. You have lots of risks. They're not all created equal. What are the top risks? You need to focus on the top 5 or the top 10. T, threats. What are the things externally, internally? Is there a new law? Is there a new minister of government who has a certain policy appetite that could cause your business to go out of business? You need to be scattered and watching the environment for those things. Treatments. When I have gaps, I need to treat them. How do you treat? You mitigate. You do something to prevent the risk. You avoid, meaning you get out of that space. You transfer, meaning that you get more insurance, or you accept. The cost of fixing this is too great, so I'm not going to do anything. O is the objectives. You must set smart objectives at all levels. Strategic, operational, financial, compliance, reporting. C, controls. Once you know what your high risks are, you need to make sure that you change stuff to mitigate those risks. And the last C is the control environment, the tone at the top. You're the boss, the number 2 people around you, the way how you behave, that's how the company is going to behave. Your mother said, if the head of the river can I say dirty? The whole stream, aga, dirty. Thank you very much.